this Camry. And there's Bryce lending me the Camry, and I'm driving at 55 miles an hour to run this thing in. We go down to New York, and we leave Oliver with Betty.
No, we left Elliot with Mom, and we took Oliver.
Oh, well,
Oliver was a baby, 2 months old.
I wasn't paying attention. But anyway, when we come back, Oliver had been crying because we tried him on electrolytes and everything, and then we left him with Benny for a while. You should tell the story, but you won't let me.
You can tell it.
And she said, all of a sudden he was happy, and we go, what did you do? Well, she fed him. The boy was hungry. But further to this Camry, Betty would always pick me up at the airport when I flew in for a few weeks to see her or visit. And one time I had this Camry, and we drove to the Spitfire. Some of you have been at the restaurant. We drive into the Spitfire, and all of a sudden this car explodes. I think the radiator is gone, but it blew all the plugs out of the engine. And the Camry was dead at the Spitfire. Anyway, I see Betty climbing into this tow truck, which comes, it could have towed, one of these trucks in Ottawa. And she's climbing up into this thing. We drive to fix it. It's $5,000. So that day, we go up to Gertens, and we got to find the car. And we have to test drive this car. Normally, I don't drive with Betty at that stage. I drive. She says she has to test the car. So then we go with Gersten with this Hyundai, and off we go. And yeah, she did it. She was quite confident for a while until she at the end she sold it after she banged everything up.
That's when she hit an ambulance, she thought that maybe it was
All the things to hit now.
But she always accepted me, and she always apologized for her daughter. Which is really, it's a good way. And then, she'd always tell me to shut up. So I think I'm going to shut up. And listen, Neely, the final thing is, I lost my mother and father a long time ago. And Betty was kind of like a mother to me.
No.
So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Karen.
Graham's story of Betty climbing into a tow truck reminded me of an adventure we had with Betty. Now, Jessica Vanderveen isn't here today, but the Vanderveens were in Malaysia with, I don't know any of this because I'm just an interloper, but the Vanderveens were with the Rollinses in Malaysia, and Mr. Vanderveen's golden barge came in, Alan always tells me, but Jessica Vanderveen actually ran for NDP in Oak Bay Gordon Head many times. She lives down the street from us, but her mother and Betty were great friends. And when Mrs. Vanderveen died, her funeral was in Gibsons or Squamish, somewhere that's really hard to get to, which we learned. Because Auntie Doe, one of Betty's favorite aunts, there's Auntie Doe and Auntie Lil, but Auntie Doe, when she finally gave up doing 3 ferries and 4 buses to come and visit Betty, and she would charter an airplane from Gibsons to Sydney. So when Mrs. Vanderveen died and Betty wanted to go to the funeral, I'm sitting there going, oh my God, this ferry, that ferry, through Vancouver, all that. No, we're not going to do this. And by this time, because of Andrew and Rick being up at VIU, the whole idea of driving to Nanaimo wasn't scary anymore. And so I thought, okay, we'll go to Nanaimo, we'll get on the Pacific Coastal Air, the little wee planes, the little wee ones, and we'll fly to Gibsons and go to the funeral and fly back. And Alan can come from Edmonton and do something and get there too. But the best part of the story is we get to Nanaimo, we get to Pacific Coast or whatever that little airplane is, and we're going to get on the plane, and Betty was a bit elder, I don't know how old she was then, probably 80, but they brought these very wide stairs. And at some point she said something about, I was on the Concorde. And the pilots, oh my God, she was a goddess. The pilot and the co-pilot brought the fancy stair on the deck. They helped her up. She got to sit at the front of the plane. You've been on the Concorde? Yes, many times. And of course she was wearing high heels. She always wore high heels. Even that bathroom. Yes, you have Betty clumping her high heels. And everyone's
o'clock in the
gardens.
morning with the
Yeah,
coffee
yeah.
machine.
So, her stories of being on the Concorde just enthralled the pilots and the co-pilots of this little tiny one-prop airplane. And year later, Alan and I were in New York and we saw the Concorde at the museum. There's a pier where there's a Concorde. And we'd also seen a fighter jet, one of the American ones that was in the Vietnam War. Those planes are identical. They just stuffed seats inside of the Concorde. But that was a really great story because it showed it's all of Betty's adventures, her joie de vivre, her way of making everybody her friend to get along. And we also got to go, and then we went to the funeral.
I'd like to follow up on that, about being adventurous. So I invited Betty to go to Maui with me to stay with my artist friend on Haleakala and Kula. And so we fly from Victoria to Maui, and we get off the plane. Everything was perfect, except when we got there was not a car to be rented, because everybody who was a dentist in North America was there for a convention, and there wasn't a car, not even Rent-A-Wreck. So I got my friend up in Kula to come down. Terry came down and picked us up and took us up. So we were nicely put into her lovely cottage. And the next day she brought us down. She said, "I think I might find a car for you. It's a Hawaiian friend of ours. And they have cars, but they're not always reliable." So we went down, way down to Kie, and we went to this Hawaiian gentleman. And he said, "Yes, I have a car, but there's a couple things you should know about it. The car will not go far faster than 30 miles an hour. The second thing is you can't take it up the side of the mountain, because it won't make it. And the third thing is there's no floorboards." And Betty said, "Perfect." So my friend Terry took a photo of Betty and I, and she turned around when she saw the car. She said, "Oh, Francis, I love you." And that's the picture.
Oh, that's Francis.
That's Francis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.